Me doing these episodes, Come Home With Me, it makes me happy to get to talk with people that I seen in my childhood, you feel me? I wanted to do this so that people could tell their stories about where they from, where they've been, and where they at. And today I have somebody who I grew up on. And when I first started getting into the music industry, I didn't really meet people who I grew up on. I met the people that was like the movers and shakers at that very moment. Like, even though you were still moving and shaking at the time I got in, like, I didn't get a chance to meet those people. But today I have an icon, a rap icon, one of the heavy lifters when it comes to hip hop, especially for the ladies, Monie Love.
This is insane. First of all, just like, I mean, I know it's Come Home With Me, but I really didn't expect it was
feel like you was
Come
at
Home With Me. Like,
yeah.
This is like what?
Yeah.
What?
It gives you sort of
with
feeling.
The Atlas and jazz player and a soft light and the comfy couch and.
Yeah, we might throw a vinyl player in the side or something.
I don't know if they can see this, but there's a floor model, wooden, framed, heavy, you can't steal this TV in here. Like, it's really insane. Like, it's really Come Home With Me.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to set, a stage for you to feel comfort. I wanted everybody who comes up here to feel comfort so that when we speak and you feel like you at home, or it might remind you of something homely. Like, even if you didn't live in a house like this, it might remind you of Family Matters or Married with Children. Or,
yeah, that's so crazy. I mean? It's like, as soon as I saw the TV, I remembered the whole. It doesn't even do this anymore. I remember when HBO used to come on and you first used to see like a
the static,
yeah. HBO. That's what I'm thinking about when I look at the TV.
You remember that show that was on HBO called The Hitchhiker? I remember this show when I was a little kid. It was like about some guy who I think he was a serial killer or something like that.
I do remember that.
And he would just hitchhike all over, and he would run into these crazy.
Yes.
I don't know if he was a serial killer, but I remember he was running into like these crazy situations while he was trying to hitchhike.
He definitely was a serial killer.
He was a serial killer. Okay,
and he definitely was running into crazy situations as he was hitchhiking his way across America. Yeah. But he was definitely still killing people.
All right, so I wasn't bugging. I remember that show.
It's kind of like, I think the idea of that may have transcended into what people know of Dexter.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of living this cop life or whatever, but he's a serial killer for real. So yeah, I think it's the same thing. I do remember that show though.
I know, my mind I remember all these nostalgic things.
Yeah, me too.
Monie, wow, I just want to say that I'm very honored to be able to speak with you, because you have such a rich history in hip hop.
Can we just call this what it is right now? This shit should have been happened.
Yes.
We've been talking about.
I've known you for closely to 10 years now.
Yes, and we've been talking about
right.
That's a fact. Even when my daughter put together the show that she has me on, which is Monie in the Middle, and we were like, oh, we want to get. She was like, oh, we can get him. I know him. We can get him on the show. And I'm like, we need to get him on the show. So this is a long time coming.
Absolutely.
So I just want to say that.
No, I'm just like I said, I'm honored to be able to talk with you because it's so many different things. Like when I was growing up, I did not know that you was from overseas.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that because I was a little kid, so I wasn't reading necessarily the magazines at that time, but I was seeing like Video Music Box. I see you on there, and then when your MTV Raps came out and all other stuff. But could you talk to me a little bit about growing up in London, right? You from South London.
Yeah.
At that.
Yeah.
And I'm really intrigued about places that have black people because I know the history here, but I don't really necessarily know the history everywhere else. So how was it growing up in South London?
Okay, so growing up in England, in South London, or anywhere in England as a black youth, you're either of African parentage, and I say parentage, not heritage, because heritage kind of makes it seem like a little further back. I say parentage because your parents straight up either come from Africa or your parents straight up come from somewhere in the Caribbean. That's basically it. And this is because after the Second World War in England, they wanted to, it needed rebuilding, and lots of lives were lost. They needed people to come in and man the trains and work in all the different industries and stuff to rebuild the UK, to rebuild England, so on and so forth. So the British, who have an empire that the saying is, the sun never sets on the British Empire, which basically means it is so vast that it's always daytime somewhere in the British Empire, all of the countries that they have colonized, right? So they reached out to the countries that they colonized and invited men, the menfolk from these countries, come for a better life, new start, blah, 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 you know, and people from Jamaica came in droves, people from Grenada came in droves, Trinidad came in droves, you know, all the countries that were under British rule, where they invited the menfolk to come for a better life and better start for your family and blah, blah, blah. They all came in droves. My grandfather came to England. My mother's father worked on British transport.
Where did they come from?
On the buses. My granddad came from, my whole family's from Jamaica.
Right.
So my maternal grandfather came, left all his kids, came first, set up shop, sent for his wife. She got into nursing, and then they set up shop, and then they started sending for their kids one by one. Now, they already had some kids that had reached adulthood already still in Jamaica. They pretty much stayed. But the younger children, my mother of the younger set, came to England and went to high school in England, well, you know, secondary school, they call it in England. And my father, kind of the same thing. Little more unruly with my father. My father's sister and her husband came in that first drove because they were older to work in England or whatever. And my dad was getting in too much trouble in Jamaica as a kid. So my grandparents sent him to England to be with his big sister.
Okay.
And so he did not attend school in England, but he met this, you know, really intriguing young girl that was going to school, and then they became an item.
Okay.
And then they married, and they had my brother and myself. It's just two of us. It's just me and my brother. My brother's older than me. So growing up in a Jamaican household in England, very much like growing up in a Jamaican household in Jamaica.
Or the Bronx.
Or the Bronx.
Right.
Or
I
the
grew up
Bronx.
in a very productive. So my family, my mom's side of the family is from Montserrat and Trinidad. My great grandmother was from Montserrat. She was born
Trinidad?
in Trinidad.
What's up, shut?
Yeah, and
Okay.
so she moved. She was born in 1908.
Okay,
She lived to be 104.
Wow.
Yeah, the meanest person I've ever met in my life. But I understood.
Your
what
Trini
she-
grandma?
Yes, I
She's
understood.
mean. She was mean.
She was mean, but I understood why. She was born in 1908.
But you got to a point in your life where you realized she wasn't. It wasn't
just
mean.
that she was mean. No.
It's a mannerism and it's ways, and it's because she's telling people and you a bunch of good sense and a bunch of I love you type conversations. But you have to.
Well, she couldn't. The thing about my great grandmother was, you couldn't say a word around her that you didn't know, because if you said the word, if you said application, and as a kid, if you said application, she asked you what that mean, right? And you couldn't say it. Go get the dictionary.
Yes.
Go get the dictionary,
Yeah.
and then write the word 10 to 20 times. And then make a small paragraph using the word and what it means. I used to hate going to our house.
Yep.
But that's why I said, like, I grew up in the Bronx in a predominantly West Indian neighborhood. So it's
so
like,
you get it.
Oh, I get it, for sure, for sure.
You get it. So that's what it was in England. It very much was that. And with the music, it was the same thing. So it was very much rockers, reggae music, you know, calypso, you know, because again, it's you know, Trinidad. I grew up with Trinidadians, Jamaicans, St. Lucians, Grenadians, because these were all islands under British rule, and these were all places that people came to England from in droves. You know what I mean? So that was the community. And if you weren't from your parents weren't from a Caribbean island, they were from Africa straight up. A lot of girls that I went to school with were from Nigeria or Ghana. You know what I mean? It really was just Nigeria and Ghana, for the most part. African kids, girls that I went to school with in England. So it was very much culturally a melting pot. Racism definitely existed, but the British have, growing up, British white folks have, they've mastered the art of diplomacy. It's different. It's not KKK in your face, like what was happening in the US. But what was really interesting is that I knew as a kid what was going on in the US with the civil rights struggle and things like that. Because even though I was born in 1970, by the time I got to like 8 or 9 or something like that, my father, my dad, who's Rasta, and who's like the rebel already. I told you he was getting into too much trouble in Jamaica while he wound up in England in the first place. He started feeding me all types of literature, autobiography of Malcolm X, George Jackson's Soledad Brother, Soul on Ice, Eldridge Cleaver. Like, he was feeding me all of that and having me read it. And it was like your grandma. It was like, read it, and then I want you to write a paragraph about what it. You know what I'm saying?
It got to a point where I would go, when I used to have to go see my great grandmother, which was my mother's mom, because she had 4 daughters, and all of them was my grandmother was a nurse. I think 2 of them was nurses, and then they were teachers and stuff. When I used to go to her house, I just wouldn't talk. I just wouldn't say anything, because I didn't want to say,
you
like...
didn't want to get tested.
I didn't want to get tested, yo. It's like, it's Saturday. We only go over there Saturday.
And you say to yourself, if I just be quiet
I'm
enough,
good.
we're going to be in and out of here. Like, if I start talking, it's going to make the whole visit longer.
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
That's funny.
But so, with that being said, right, like, with all of the things that you was learning, you then fall into hip-hop.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you start learning about hip-hop and everything, which, of course, you know, is credited for starting in the Bronx, but then it makes its way out there. Like, how is that for you?
It made its way out to England by way of movement. We were watching Wild Style, and so we got the graph writing first and b-boying. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. That's what we was doing. We
had a mean backspin, too?
Listen. I was like, and my up rock and it was crazy. It was crazy, but I could not do any of that now to save my life. It'd be like,
There's a place, because I hit some of my, my man them out there to ask about.
Oh, okay.
Just things.
Spats.
Brixton Academy?
Oh, Brixton Academy, all right. Spats was a really, really small place that was like, it was so small. The entire club was the size of this living room, but we made it work. And it was just a Saturday lunchtime thing. I think that was like day party before day parties existed. And we craved it because it was the only place we could go to where we could hear hip hop music at the time, So there was that. And Tim Westwood used to DJ in there in Spats, right? And it was only from like 12 to 2 on a Saturday.
12 to 2. That's like skate key for me when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Them type vibes, right? And then there's Brixton Academy. Now, Brixton Academy housed big shows. Big shows. I remember one time Mike Tyson came to Brixton Academy. He wasn't performing or anything. He just showed up outside Brixton Academy, and all of Brixton went crazy. People were calling people from other areas like, Mike Tyson's outside Brixton Academy, and did you ever see when Kai Cenat caused that frenzy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike
it was like
Tyson did that back in like the 80s.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
What's so interesting about like just hip hop culture's relationship with the UK is I feel like it's like a love-hate relationship. I feel like it's like from the States to the UK, it's kind of like New York to LA. Like, we love everything that we both do, but we like, nah, I started that. Like, no, we started this. Or, no, we influenced that, so we had to start it, but we took it to this level. I feel like we play off of one another a lot in that way.
So you think that's what the States does, the United States does, as far as hip-hop?
Currently. It's like, I think it was either last year or the year before, was the whole thing with Central C with the Nike Tech, right? And he said, we started the Nike Tech wave, and the thing for me was, like, I never knew that they was wearing Nike Tech in London and nothing. But then they showed like, okay, back when they were having, I think it was the World Cup or something, Nike had been created it, and I didn't know that they had took it like in the streets. They was rocking it fashionably. For us, I just seen it in Foot Locker one day. It was like, oh, now I want this. And then my peers was rocking it, so we were rocking it. So it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. Which comes first? It's this both at the same time.
I think in Central C's defense, as far as that particular item of clothing and wave and vibe, it's very interconnected in football in England for us. And that being not dressed up rugby, sorry if anybody gets offense, right? But like football, right? Soccer, I guess they call it here, right? It's always, that type of gear has always been a thing since when I can remember. Like there's probably dinosaur levels of it from when I was a kid. And it's really that type of, it's really always been a type of clothing and sports gear engineered for the football players.
Right.
And so the kids growing up in England have always emulated the football players and want to dress like them and stuff like that. So I really do understand what I really did understand what Central
Where he was coming from. All right, so, but then we see, because then, you know, we got to go to the receipts, and then you see, like, people wearing the Nike tracksuits in the 80s, or, like, for me, the introduction to me ever seeing a tracksuit, for me, was Run DMC.
Yes.
That's the first time when I seen Walk, that was actually my introduction to rap, hip-hop music, where I was like, wow, as a little kid. You know, and I remember seeing Leo Cohen say he hated that song, and I'm like, what? Like, that's one of my favorite songs.
That's actually crazy.
Ever. He said that he didn't want it to be a single and all of that. Like, he couldn't stand the song, but it helped them cross over. It helped Run DMC cross over. But yeah, I feel like we play this weird game of ping pong where we go back and forth, but we ultimately have a lot of love for one another.
I actually find it fascinating when the United States gets together and does that, because I've been in this culture long enough to see when the U.S. breaks itself down into fragments and goes at each other.
Oh, yeah.
East Coast, West Coast, So when that happens, I kind of sit back and I'm like, look at you all getting along. Like, this is nice, you know?
What about the Peckham area, though? Isn't that another, like, black area in South London?
Oh, there's lots. Yeah. I think Peckham is southeast. I'm southwest.
Okay.
I grew up in Battersea, South London, which is, like, supposedly really super posh now.
Yeah.
Like.
Do y'all have, like, so for me, I was born and raised in the Bronx, and then I moved to Harlem. But when I moved to Harlem, I moved to the East Side.
Okay.
So we have, like, this big, like, rivalry, East Side, West Side. Y'all got that out there too?
No, South London was just Southwest. Where I come from was like Southwest, right? Peckham, people in the South would still bicker with each other. Like Peckham boys would bicker with Wandsworth boys, which is Southwest, like more like where I come from. Yeah, definitely. You know, Peckham and Croydon kind of banded together because they're both Southeast. So yeah, I would say that's a fair statement.
Yeah. I want to go back into like hip hop now. You talked about, you know, the spots that you was going to when you was younger, and then I remember seeing an interview where you spoke about Queen Latifah coming out there, and like, how was that first interaction for you? Now that you're like, you know that you penning stuff, you writing, but now you actually seeing people come over there, and you like, oh, now I got a shot at this. Like,
I didn't look at it like I had a shot at it. I kind of always mentally separated what I was doing as far as I knew I was good. You know, I knew I was good. And I loved what I did, you know, and I loved that me and my boys and everybody in England, we were kind of bubbling and getting our rights and our props and stuff like that on our own in England, you know. So when groups came over, which, if you've seen a bunch of interviews, which I already know you have, because your homework game is just incredible.
Gotta be.
You would have seen me talking about Dave Funken Klein in several different interviews, and every opportunity I get to talk about Dave Klein, I will always talk about Dave Klein, because if it wasn't for him in the early days, many groups wouldn't have been able to spread their wings and embrace their fans across seas to the level that they were able to early in their careers. And this is because Dave Klein, Funken Klein, put together all these shows, mini tours. He put them together. He was able to connect the dots between supply and demand as far as hip hop was concerned overseas. And he has a hell of a lot to do with the success of the culture overseas. Because he's the one that was putting 6 and 7 group mini tours together, starting in Germany, ending up in London, going to Manchester, going to Liverpool, going to, you know what I mean? And then going back to Germany and then coming back to the States. You know, he's you know who one day I really hope you get to talk to in depth? Chuck D. Chuck D will tell you, and Chuck will sit here.
Yeah?
Yes.
We got to call Chuck up there.
Well, then that's what we do when I'm done doing this.
Okay.
Right? Chuck will tell you that when Public Enemy first came out, they had a very small fan base in the United States and didn't realize that they had a huge fan base in England and Europe until now. I'm not sure if Funken Klein had anything to do with their particular tour when they first came over, but when they did first come over and saw the amount of people that was coming, they were able to pack Brixton Academy, which is a huge venue, right? And at the same time had hardly any fans in the United States. So they broke in the UK and Europe before they broke here.
You know, that's really interesting to me how people in other places support music or culture outside. Because I remember and this is like almost a 10-year anniversary. This year, I mean, well, these days, possibly today, 10 years ago, I was in Japan with Dave East when I was managing him. And I remember like us going out there and the love we was getting. Like a dude literally had a picture and was walking around with the picture and bought the same exact outfit that Dave had on. And we was just mind blown,
but it makes sense to me.
But the thing about, especially from New York, we get dressed to go out to not have a good time. You know, like we too cool for everything. And even in the South, like, of course,
it never always used to be like that in New York.
It wasn't like that. Like, even for me, when I was a kid, I used to want to go to shows and sing songs word for word.
You used to see you got a sister my age, right? Yeah. You used to see your sister get dressed up fly.
I didn't, but
no?
that's a whole nother convo.
Okay.
But my sister, she was living in that world, because like I was telling you, my sister and Fat Joe they from the same project.
Yeah.
So like my dad, what's crazy is like, you know, all these crazy Fat Joe stories. My dad, he's no longer here, but my dad used to tell me like, yeah, he was crazy when he was a kid. But like, so my sister did grow up in that time where Fat Joe first started. She went with Showbiz and AG too. She went to school with them as well. So like all of that digging in the crate. So being that I knew that my sister had like some sort of lineage or connection to hip hop, I was always into what she was in, which is crazy because her baby father's brother is Sonny from Onyx.
That's insane.
Yeah, so me and Sonny got the same niece, like a nephew.
That's an insane 6 degrees of separation.
It's crazy.
But what I was getting to is you saw older people than you that were getting dressed to go out to have a good time.
Yeah, my mom and her friends was like that.
See what I'm saying? And we did. We did. And we were closing clubs down. We would be there dancing until they closed the club down.
So you said that
turn the lights on.
So Monie, you said that you at that point you wasn't looking at it like you had a shot, right? But there was some sort of space for you to seize the moment and opportunity.
Well, the reason why I say I wasn't looking at it like, oh, I got a shot here, is because my being introduced to Latifah and my being around her and the rest of the people that came on that specific tour was more about me really enjoying the moment. Me really enjoying the moment. We really enjoying the fact that I've been introduced to another female MC and she's dope, you know? And watching her perform and seeing her performance is dope. You know, I felt like I was in good and equal company. I say that to say, you know, like it wasn't a moment where I was then scheming like, you know what, I could.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I could get in here. I should, you know. It took a while because Funken Klein asked me to road manage their tour for them at 16, 17 years old because their driver came from Germany. They came on the bus with the driver from Germany on the ferry to England, and he couldn't make out English roads. So Funken Klein was like, could you sit with us for the rest of this tour and just, you know, and school was out at the time, so I was like, okay.
How old were you at this time?
16.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. So I'm on the bus with them every day, and I got the maps out, and I'm sitting with the bus driver, whatever, and I'm like, okay, this is where we need to go. So I'm drawing in a pen, this is where we need to go, and I'm at the front of the bus, and I'm helping him get on whatever shows they need to go to outside of London, right? And it wasn't until a while that Latifah finally asked me, Funken Klein said you rhyme. And I was like, yeah. She was like, spit something. How we been around you for days and don't know? And I was like, I don't know, nobody asked. Mm-hmm. So then I did, and then she was like, wow. And then she was like, and then told the others, and then I rhymed to the others, you know, and then it was just a situation where they were like, yo, we gotta put her down.
Wow.
That's the whole native tongue get together.
The whole thing of native tongues,
Yeah.
how it's brewing and starting and all of that. And then when that happens, you now you have relationships with all of these people, right? Or you're building relationships with all these people. But I have a relationship that I want to ask you about that I don't know if too many people know.
Mm-hmm.
You had a relationship with Prince.
Yeah, I almost talked myself out of that experience. Because I was signed to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers was also the label that Prince was signed to and later on had lots of discrepancies with.
Mm-hmm.
But I was signed there at a time when he was signed there, and I was recording my second album, and my manager came to me, and the A&R person, Peter Edge at Warner Brothers at the time, and was like,
Peter Edge that on RCA?
I think he's probably.
I had a meeting with him before.
Yeah, he's
I just did the name. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
I figured you should probably know who he is. You know, Peter Edge has been around for a long time. Peter Edge was at the record label that signed me in England in the first place, which was Chrysalis Records. This is before he moved. Peter Edge moved to the United States while he was governing my situation as an artist.
Wow.
That's how he even decided to move over to the U.S.
Wow.
It's because my project was his project, and he was governing my project at the time. And I recorded half of my project here. And then, so when I got the first one, and then so the second album, Peter Edge comes to the table with my manager, Steve, at the time, and he's like, Prince is interested in having Monie write for his artist. And in return, he will produce 2 songs on her new album. So they have this conversation with me, and they're looking at me like I'm supposed to be impressed, and I wasn't.
You for real?
Yeah, because there was a rumor going around that Prince had explicitly said he didn't like hip hop.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, you know, I'm not 55 years old at that time with a vast amount of emotional intelligence.
Right.
I'm 17 defending my culture on some, why do I want to work with Prince? He's not hip hop. He doesn't even like hip hop. Why do I want to, what music could I possibly drum up with Prince? You know, and I just was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. It's corny. I don't want to do it.
Wow.
Right? And my manager just bent my ear and went on and on and on. And Peter Edge, you don't know, this could be so advantageous for your career and blah, 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 blah. And I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. So I went to Minneapolis like frickin' like I went with that attitude, right? And then I got there, and Prince dismissed everybody. Peter Edge, my manager, anybody else to do with him, first day, he dismissed everybody, and took me for a tour around Paisley Park by himself. Took me into the room where it's a sound stage, where all the videos are produced, filmed and produced, where his scenes from his movie was filmed and produced. Took me into his vast kitchen, showed me the kitchen, big, huge kitchen, chefs, this, that, and the third. Took me into the musician room, all the guitars. It's like an instrument museum. He has all the stands, the yellow guitar, a purple guitar, the cymbal guitar, everything. And I'm standing there like, he's like, you can pick one up. And I'm like, no, like, why would I want to touch that? Supposing I drop it, like, I'm not. He's like, you'll be fine. Go ahead. Takes me to a room where his costumes are designed. That's all in-house. He has a room where his tailor comes in, sketches on the table of the clothing of every tour, of every video, of every visual you've seen Prince. Everything is tailored right there, you know? So it was an incredible tour. And then he said, okay, and tomorrow we'll start work. And had me staying at a hotel not far from Paisley Park, and would send a car to get me every day to bring me to Paisley Park to start writing for Carmen Electra, who was his artist.
Carmen Electra.
Carmen Electra was his artist, and he was putting together a rap album for her.
Wow.
Unbeknownst to me, which I was like, thought you didn't like hip hop. But he infused a lot of rock and other stuff in her music, but he definitely wanted her to rap, and so I wrote her lyrics.
It's crazy because I always hear like stories, and of course, like, you know, when what's my man? When Charlie Murphy did the whole Dave Chappelle stuff, like we always, because we couldn't get a glimpse of who Prince was in real life.
Pancakes is real. He made me pancakes.
He made you pancakes?
Yep.
They was fire?
Pancakes is real. But what's crazy is I didn't realize that it was a running joke or a thing until years later when I saw the skit.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he made you pancakes after the game.
I was like, holy crap, that's really his thing.
Making pancakes.
Yeah, and doesn't eat none, and sits there fully dressed as Prince and watches me eat them and asks me how they are and does not eat them. Like, it was the weirdest thing. So when I saw the skit and then playing basketball, and then after that they're gonna have pancakes, I was like, oh my God, that really
Did he play some ball? Did you see him play ball when you was there?
No, because I don't play ball,
right.
so I didn't see him do that. But watching that skit, and then after they've done playing ball, I'm gonna make pancakes, I was like, wow.
Yeah, people have confirmed, like Kevin Garnett said that he was nice in ball too. Because he was in Minneapolis, the Minnesota Timberwolves was there. He used to invite the Timberwolves over, they would have parties and stuff, and he would just play the music and shit. What's crazy about that is like I was saying, you always hear these Prince stories, and he was very, very big on, like, as an artist, doing your own thing. Oh
yeah, and he gave me that whole speech.
How was it?
It was intense, and it wasn't, it was very caring. The conversation was very caring, and he was like, you know, I've been doing this a long time. You may not be able to, you know, you're young, you're just in this, you're fresh, you're enjoying yourself. It doesn't seem like people are trying to talk you out of your own art, but believe me when I tell you, people are trying to talk you out of your own art. So wherever and whenever you can, make sure that you are stamping your own stuff, you're owning your own stuff, you're writing your own stuff. You know what I mean? He was very, very clear about that. And I just was like, this is such a weird trip. I got pancakes, I got a tour, I got to
for Carmen Electra.
Yeah, like and you know, and I was there for all the videos, whatever I wrote, he would fly me in to do the videos. There was a period of time where he had a string of shows in London at Earl's Court. And I thought we were just gonna stop working. He was gonna go to England, do those shows in Earl's Court, then come back, then we would resume working. No, I had to go to England too, because everybody had to go, because when he got off stage at Earl's Court, he had a studio booked where we would be continuing the work.
Yeah.
So his work ethic was sick. Yeah. He flew me, my husband at the time, and my baby, which was Lena.
For real?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
One day at the show, he was doing Sexy Mother Effer, and he had instructed his band at a certain point to give it 8 bars. I'm standing at the side of the stage. I got Charlena. She's a baby. He comes over and he's like, go do 8 bars real quick. What? What? Like, that, you're Prince. You could do all of that spontaneous stuff. Like, I'm here watching the show from the side of the stage. I'm holding my baby. How you gonna come here and tell me, go get that 8 bars real quick? And the music's going. I had no choice. And I didn't know what I was gonna say.
So you went up there with Lena.
I was like, well, where am I gonna? And he was like, give me the baby. And he took her and stood at the side of the stage and held up while I went out, did the 8 bars he told me to do. Then I came off and he gave me the baby back and he ran back out there and continued the show. Strange guy, but always on point.
Always on point.
Yeah.
The talk that he gave you about artistry and all that and how he felt, did that give you like your disdain for the music industry?
It was one of the things that definitely stayed in my head as I started to see this shift of, really, I didn't get the disdain until the shift of the whole streaming thing came into play. And I saw it for the bamboozlement that it was from the beginning, but nobody else saw it. And I really didn't talk about it that much, because if you're in my era and you talk about streaming when it first started and you talk about streaming.
Oh, you're a hater.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just a hater.
Exactly.
You know.
And so I just would look at it and be like, it's gonna take for the young ones to not feel like they're getting what they should be getting from it. which won't happen until probably another 6 or 7 years. This was like in the beginning, me saying this. I was like, it's gonna take for the young ones to not feel like they're getting their just desserts from streaming.
You know what's crazy about that? Because I think about my favorite albums of all time, and I think about how many times I listened to them. And I know, most likely, even for an album that came out 30 years ago, I probably didn't listen to it 1,250 times for it to count as one sale. Like, you gotta listen to something 1,250 times for it to count as one is...
Listen, Wayne, I'll tell you this, right? You have to really, as an artist today, you have to truly love the art of what you're doing. You have to truly love the art of what you're doing. It's not like it was, you know what I mean? If you're in some, I'm trying to do this so I can get my mom out the projects, good luck.
No, for real.
Good luck.
For real. And this leads me to this, because the way things are today, right? I feel like people complain about the balance, and it's been since like the early 2000s, because like in the 90s, when I was a kid, I had rappers who talked about gangster stuff.
Right.
And then I had rappers who talked about intellect, but they was put on the same platform, and the people had to decide, right? And the reason why I wanted to talk to you about that is because I seen you show love to a song that's one of my favorite songs growing up, and that's Rock This Funky Joint by the Poor Righteous Teachers. Because
Trenton makes the world take.
Listen, I used to love, because the dance that they used to do,
on
this
that
shit.
Bridge,
yeah,
right?
the dance, yeah. I used to love that song, and people did not. I never seen. I'm not gonna say I never seen, because I don't know if I might have seen it and overlooked it before. But to see, you even show love to them as artists, it meant a lot to me, because at the time, I ain't gonna front. What year did that song come out? I'm pretty sure it came out like 91, 92-ish,
yeah.
right? And I love Onyx. I love Wu-Tang. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Back the Fuck Up was like, what my mother took that tape from me twice and threw it in the garbage. But then I understand now.
How could you not?
Yeah, like, I mean, the single was Throw Your Guns in the Air.
And,
like,
and guess what? Me, with my native tongue self, would be blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
But you still had, like, and I think that, like, just people were different at that time, because even with that being said, and the type of music you did versus the type of music that Onyx was doing, you still could appreciate it, right? But you understood that it stood for a certain thing, and that's what that was. It was just entertainment.
You know, there's somebody in hip hop that just didn't understand that concept and used to really annoy me to the bones that he did not understand that concept. Ooh. And his name is Tim Dog.
Tim Dog?
Tim Dog used to berate me to other people, like in interviews or whatever, by saying she's happy hip hop and da 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 da. And it was like, I'm not going to cower in embarrassment by being happy hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up in a household where I was taught it takes all sorts. It takes all sorts to make everything go around. And so, yes, I'm gonna be that part of the culture. But please understand that I'm still reciting Kim, taking it a boy, yes, more. I'm still reciting Kim. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Queen bitch, supreme bitch. I'm still.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And therefore, it's time to get live like a wire.
I set the whole choir on fire.
Who's not singing that?
Yeah, and but you know what?
Because it's embodying a part of the culture. That's what he didn't understand. Tim Dog didn't understand back then. And many people don't understand. And I think he passed away, as a matter of fact. So, you know, God bless the dead. But a lot of people don't understand that today either. Like, it takes all of the different aspects. Hip hop in itself was not just one element. It's graffiti writing, it's the b-boying, it's the DJing, it's the fashion, it's the MCing. And so therefore, when you come into a culture with the understanding that it takes many molecules to make this thing run, it's the same approach you have with the music. I'm not gonna dislike something because when so many interviewers used to say, well, you know, Ice Cube and NWA, and they're talking about women are hoes and bitches and da-da-da-da, and how do you feel about that? And I used to sit there and in my head say to myself, you're trying to prompt me to diss my brothers in hip hop. I'm not doing that. I would simply say, I'm not a bitch, so they're not talking about me.
Right.
But I know bitches.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts. T.I. said that, and ironically, him and 50 are going through what they're going through. But 20 years ago, they was doing a speaking engagement where they was talking about lyrics and what they mean. And
Yeah.
T.I. said, yeah, like, understand that we say these words, and while y'all might want to shun them, there are bitches and hoes that exist out here. You know what I mean?
They exist.
So it's like it's,
you know what I'm saying?
It's just part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But look, this
I don't understand
thing.
why them two are going at it either. But
It's funny to me, but here's the thing that I wanted to, because you said that you watched Big Daddy Kane.
yeah, that's
right?
my warm up.
And so look, you know what's so crazy? I was upset as a kid that I wasn't dark skinned because I wanted to be like
Oh
Big
yeah,
Daddy
he
Kane.
made it
No,
because Big Daddy Kane made it.
Yo, he was so fly. Yo.
Big Daddy Kane made being a dark skinned brother so cool.
Yeah, he was so fly,
cool.
yo. Like
So, for years, I would not date light skin.
for real?
Yeah, for years. You know what I'm saying? It was just the fashion. Dark skinned dudes was the fashion. You know what I mean? But yeah, Kane was my warm up. Like that would be like when singers have their warm up and do their scales or what have you. Me putting on Set It Off would be my warm up. If I can do that, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good to write. I'm good to do anything. And it taught me breath control. It taught me breath control, which is why I was able to still be on tour at 7 months pregnant with Charlena and still be tearing that mic up with the breath control and carrying a baby.
Right. And see, and that's another thing with you carrying the baby, because it seems as if, I feel like just in the world today, so many things that have happened, you know, they always say history repeats itself.
It does.
Used to happen back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember, well, I seen when you was at the Apollo.
Yeah.
And you did your reveal of you being
Yeah.
pregnant, right?
So when Cardi did it, I did cartwheels.
Yeah.
When I saw Cardi hit the news, and she was just flat out unapologetic and pregnant and performing, I did cartwheels in my living room. I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Because at that time when you was pregnant and you spoke about this, about how the label started to look at you differently.
Yeah,
like,
they do. They do and they can. Now they don't so much, I don't think. I don't know though. You know, they may still secretly have like some secret hate towards their artists because it can slow things down, right? But not like us. Like, you know, Salt and Pepper, they had to like be real strategic with their videos, hide their baby bumps, things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I basically, you know Charlena, she'll tell you I'm just like.
You was like, F it.
Yeah, I really was. I really did. I really was on some, man, eat me. Like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna show this and I'm gonna talk about it in the rap. I'm gonna turn the rap into being about being pregnant while I'm on stage. And it erupted. The whole Showtime at the Apollo went
Yeah, they went crazy. when they did that.
ballistic.
How is it transitioning into, you know, from being a rapper into a personality? Because now, like, so many rappers get flack for becoming podcasters. Like, this is not something that has happened before. Like, there's tons of rappers or producers that went from being on the music side to being into the media side. And you was one of the early ones, you know, that did it. So how was that transition? And how do you feel even about the people who transition now? Like, now we got the Tony Ayo on Uncle Murder podcast. I seen you just did Joe and Jada podcast.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So how was it for you transitioning into media?
Well, I'll flat out go ahead and say this, right? Everybody isn't a journalist.
That's a fact.
Okay? Everybody isn't a journalist, and you can see it. However, there are some things about, you know, first of all, it was some artists becoming radio personalities, and that was my wave. That was the area when I crossed over into being a media personality. It was from being an artist to being a radio personality, right? So I got my chops. I earned my chops because, believe you me, there were many a bad moment when I was learning, because back then you had to acquire your FCC license to be able to broadcast. So, you know, I'm there, I'm learning. Miss Jones and I were learning at the same time. We're on air. We're saying things on air, not realizing the microphone is on. There's people calling us like, yo, y'all are talking about some dudes y'all dating and the microphone's on. what are y'all doing?
Right.
And we're like, ugh.
Because they couldn't text you.
You know,
Right.
and it was like, we would be on at like 3 o'clock in the morning, unsociable hours, right? So we both got our FCC licenses, and then we were both on Hot 97 pretty much on weekends, right? In that when Hot 97 just turned over and was flagship, and was acquiring its staff, right? So that would be the wave then. Now there's a wave where it's like artists are turning into podcasters, and that's kind of like a next step, you know? So I would say I got my chops in media and doing TV and stuff like that from back then, from like the top of the 90s, right? And now you have like a lot of artists that are jumping into podcasting and vodcasting, because that's vodcasting, video on demand.
Oh, yeah,
that's
yeah.
the next wave. You know what I mean? So they're getting into that. You know, Joe and Jada, and then you know, people that put their work in for
Joe
a good
Budden, yeah.
Joe Budden. You know what I'm saying? Put his work in. Nori.
Nori. I can honestly say, growing up, being a fan of Nori, buying the War Report when I was in high school, buying the NRE album, I never and I got a chance to be around Nori when I was working at Rockefeller. I never in a million years would have pictured Nori being like this guy who everybody goes to speak with.
Okay, let me tell you a little story real quick. So I moved to Miami at one period of my life, right? I had just left doing radio in Philly, which everybody actually thought that I got fired because of Jeezy in Philly, right? But it turns out that the day that Jeezy came to the radio station to do an interview,
Right.
and then we got into a debacle about Nas's album Hip Hop Is Dead.
Yeah.
Okay, on that day, I had reached the end of a 6-month negotiation period with the radio station. And on that day, it was, are you gonna sign this or not? And I chose not, because there were things in the contract that we just could not meet on. So it just so happened that on that day when I got off air and I went into the office, they were like, look, we're not gonna negotiate any further. Is this contract, this is it. Are you gonna sign this contract or not? And I'm like, I can't sign that as it is. So I guess I won't be here anymore. And by that evening, my voice was gone off the station, any commercials with my voice off the station, it was just a done deal. But earlier in that morning, Jeezy and I got into a debacle about Hip Hop Is Dead,
Right.
right? So everybody assumed that Jeezy got you fired and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you know what? Everybody can run with that. Y'all can all run with that if you want to. I know that that's not true.
Right.
And Jeezy knows that he does not hold urban one corporate power.
Yeah.
to
People have their own assumptions. They have all these assumptions about how things work.
Exactly. But when I left that radio station and that situation happened and I left the station and then I wound up moving to Miami, I was friends with EFN. EFN is my boy, right? And so we used to meet at an apartment on Biscayne Boulevard, like across the street from Bayside Park, at the bottom of Biscayne Boulevard, right before it goes into Brickell, right? And so it's right past the AAA Arena. Lots of high rises over there. EFN had an apartment in there specifically to sit and do podcasts, right? And this was 2011.
During the blog era.
Yeah, and so I don't even remember the name of the platform that it used to air on, but it used to air on some platform. And basically all Drink Champs it wasn't even called Drink Champs. We would sit in this apartment. So it's an apartment that has a kitchen, and it would just be laid out with all kinds of liquors and whatever. And then Nori would come and sit down, and EFN would come and sit down, and the rest of EFN's crew, Crazy Hood, the whole crew, and me, and I would sit there, and Nori would get to telling stories.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it.
Yeah.
And it's rich. It's stories rich in history, hip hop history, stuff that we didn't know. And these conversations would go on for hours. They would be so interesting. And it would also be a situation where who could drink who under the table. because we're there all afternoon. And so it got to the point where amongst them, amongst each other, they would call each other drink champ. That's the drink champ right there. No, that's the drink champ. No, that's the drink champ.
Right.
So eventually, when they did decide to name what was happening, something, because it was happening every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So, EFM was like, we should name this something, because we do it all the time. And then they was like, why don't we name it Drink Champs? And I was like, that makes sense, because that's what you guys are.
Yeah,
That's what you do.
I love to see the evolution in artists. Like I was on this thing, Bars on I-95, and they asked me, they did like a this person or that person thing.
Yeah.
Right? And they said Foxy or Eve. And I was like, and I love Foxy.
Yeah.
I said Eve, and I said because I feel like Eve was one of the most, she's one of the most shunned artists in hip hop. And I don't know why that is. I think, because I feel like they don't talk about Eve. Right? Like, people don't talk about her, right? Like, it's like you bring up the conversations, of course, don't get me wrong, like Kim, icon, you know what I mean? Her and Foxy both represent a time where they was some of the first ones to do the things that they did, right? But then Eve comes within that same time, a little bit after, right? Like 98-ish, 98, 99. And when she comes through, she's also in a space that all the women had to have a guy or a crew of guys to stand next to at that time. It was Junior Mafia, The Firm, Rough Riders, you know what I mean, and Monk, a lot of ones after that.
Yeah.
Eve comes with arguably the greatest spitters ever with the Locks, Drag-On,
That's true.
DMX, and she stands out and has a hit single on the first compilation that leads to Let There Be Eve. I found out that Eve is the first female rapper to have a #1 album. Then she goes on to make another album, and then she crosses over, she does shows and movies and no bullshit on her name, nothing, and don't nobody talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, they don't never bring Eve up, and it bothers me. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that Foxy deserves all the respect in the world. Kim deserves, because for me, when I was young, I was actually listening to their music. I wasn't, they was fine, but I was listening to their music because I liked their music as a kid. So I'm just like, yo, why don't they ever bring Eve up? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was glad to see that they awarded her
most recently, right?
Yeah, a
I did see
Grammy.
that.
I was glad to see that.
You Got Me for the Roots.
I mean, the whole time I knew that was her.
Yeah, I didn't know that till I was older.
I knew that was her the whole time. When I was, because, me and the Roots are tight. Roots used to do this thing every at Wetlands in New York. They used to do this thing and event, and I used to always go to it. Black Lily. They had this thing called Black Lily that they used to do in Philly, which was basically like jam session, and anybody could show up and get on and tear it down. Erica's been there, Jill Scott's been there, and then they started doing it at Wetlands in New York, Black Lily. So I used to always go to that. Me and the Roots got real tight. When that album came out and that song did what it did, and they won the Grammy, I remember I drove from New York to Electric Factory in Philly for their Grammy party, for that Grammy, right? And the whole time I knew that was Eve. I never realized that whatever the requirements were of who was actually gonna get a physical Grammy, I had no idea that she didn't get one.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they did right that, because that was definitely a wrong. So I'm glad they right that wrong at some point. But yeah, I knew it was her the whole time.
So, Monie, it's probably gonna be my last question, but I got a question for you.
Okay.
What would be your XXL freshman class when you came into the game? Like, what would have been your class?
Damn. I'm like, oh, that's so tough for me to think back that far. I'm old. My freshman class. So if I was on it,
if you
and
was
then
on it,
what other artists would have been
on there with you?
Okay. K Solo.
K Solo, wow.
Yeah, man, K Solo is crazy.
Yeah, K Solo, he was going at that time.
Yeah, Incredible Letterman. Like, what? All right, because I was doing that and he was doing that letter spelling stuff too. So yeah, K Solo. So me, K Solo, Black Sheep,
Black Sheep. Okay.
Because Black Sheep was one of the later groups that came and formed into native tongues. Me, K Solo, Black Sheep.
Yeah.
That's
4. We got to get to like 6 more.
6 more?
Yeah. We could do what we did. We have 4. Let's do 4 more.
4 more. Who else was out? I'm trying to think who else was out around that time. Oh, UMCs.
UMCs, okay.
So I got 3 more.
What year is Naughty by Nature? Is that like 90, 91-ish?
No, Latifah would have been on it with me.
Latifah would have been on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because she came out like 89. So I came out like around that time. No, they came out in 91. I was gonna say PRT, but they came out in 91. So I'm talking about like 89, 90. I can't think. I can't remember who else
That's
came
all
out
good.
that year.
But I do have another question, and this, I'm closing this, right? Like, the gift and the curse of having a hit record.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the gift and the curse about having a hit record, because, you know, what a lot of artists today don't be realizing is that even if with streaming, whatever, when you sign up to get into this, you in the business of selling records.
Yeah.
And I feel like more now than ever, because there used to be a definitive way to make a hit record, right? Or a record, period. You got your verse, hook. If you're an R&B singer, that same structure with a bridge, depending on how many bars you use, right? But now, when we have people like Bobby Shmurda make Hot Nigga with just 100 bars into a hit, you know what I mean? Or other records that just might have, like, G Herbo has.
People realize that it's nothing more is gonna come of something when they're watching it happen. Like when that whole Bobby Shmurda thing, and people can get upset with me or what have you, but when that whole jumping on top of the table with all the execs, that I was looking at it and I was like, I hope there's more to come after this, but
yeah,
I hope it is.
But it's the gift and the curse, right? Because he had I always equate hip hop to being a pyramid, and everybody get to push in a block, right? Like whether you're an A&R, a manager, you get the opportunity to push something in, right? And like he has a moment, like he has a forever moment in hip hop.
Yes, he does.
But then it's getting over that hump, and that's the difficult part.
And does it matter to you? That's another part. That's another caveat. Does it matter to you? Because honestly, there's so many young people today that get in comments of whatever of conversations that I've had and will be like, you only had one song, or you only had this or whatever, and I'll sit back and I'll be like, I don't know you, so therefore I'm not about to get into running down a list of what songs I have,
right,
and what they did and all the rest of it. Why? Because it doesn't matter to me, right? I know what I had, I know what I did, and bigger for me is I love this culture and I love this music, right? I know I'm not making money right now, I'm still putting records out. Why am I doing that, Wayno?
Right.
Why am I doing that? I know what it, how many 0.001 cent.
Insane.
To a shit. Like, I know what the facts are, but I'm still making music and putting music out. I got an EP out now called Love Notes right now. Why am I doing that? It's because I love what I do.
Right.
I love the culture. I love writing. I love being in the studio. I love the creative process. And I say that to say, Bobby Shmurda may feel the same way about what he did. Right. Because he for sure had a moment. You know what I'm saying?
He has a hell of a moment.
Forever. It's cemented in history. So whether anything else came after that, which is what I was thinking when I saw him on the table, that may not matter to him. Right. Because he cemented that. And he may still be doing what he loves connected to that. So it may not matter, you know what I'm saying? Them type vibes, because I will forever be here. I will forever be here until I'm not.
Right.
For the simple reason that, you know, what's really interesting now though is everybody's spoiled child attitudes towards there's no hip hop on the Billboard chart. That's all a
distraction.
And I'm just like, guess what, guys? that's what the shit was when we came out.
Right.
It wasn't shit. It wasn't, nothing was on nothing. You know, but there are so many generations of people that don't know what it's like to be in a music genre that's not recognized. We know what that's like because we lived it. And we then enjoyed it, we loved it, we still continued with it, we made it big amongst ourselves, and the outsiders wanted in. Right. That's how it then got on everything. You know, because the outsiders wanted in. They wasn't embracing us, and we were like, all right, we over here doing us. You know, it's okay. But then outsiders wanted in. And that's when the money started funneling in, right? And then that's when it started getting accolades and billboards and Grammys and this and this and that. We had to boycott that shit, the Grammys. You know what I'm saying? And I got nominated twice. I only went once, right? Because one of the times when I got nominated, I was pregnant. I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't feel like it. Because when the shit come on that I'm not interested in, I can't flick it. Change the channel. I have to sit there and wait. I don't feel like it. So, but I say that to say there's so many generations that don't know what it's like when their music genre is not getting recognition. They don't know what it's like. Yeah. It doesn't make them wrong. They just grew up in a time where it's always been getting recognition and accolades. So here we are in a space right now where it's dropped from the accolade level to a certain extent. Don't worry, kids. It's still yours.
Hip hop is still going.
That's what I'm saying. The culture is still there, still relevant, still yours. Don't worry. And just keep at it. The outsiders are gonna want in again. Yeah. They're gonna want back in.
I think it's actually the greatest time that it's been in a long time, because if you know how to galvanize your own audience, you can run it up. You know? Like if you know what your audience wants from you, you can give it to them when they want it, and they'll support it.
But it's also a time where you can't lie about it. You really you really do have to be authentic in your shit. Yeah. Right now. That's a fact. Because if you're lying right now, when everything was on top and it's cream and everything's all over every billboard and every chart and every this and every that, you could fake your ass off. Yeah. You could fake your ass off. But right now, in this time where it has fallen from the graces of the massive platform, right? What you do needs to be authentic. Otherwise, people are gonna smell that. They're gonna see it.
They're not gonna deal with it. That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? So if you are authentic, you can most definitely galvanize your own audience. But you know, what do I know? I'm just I'm just a 55-year-old B girl. What the hell do I know?
Well, listen, Monie, I am honored to have had this 55-year-old B girl on Come Home With Me. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
That's it, y'all.
And next time we'll have pancakes.
Yeah, pancakes. You silly.